Today we're going to cover a hand where Eric Persson runs a 300K bluff on Jean-Robert Bellande on high stakes poker. I actually spoke to Eric, texted with him, and then had a phone call with him about this hand and what he was thinking. Let's get into my thoughts and his as we replay the hand.
That looked like a 1, 2, or a 3. 6, 7, 5.
Note the something of a slow play from Bellande.
Yep.
Not 3-betting the ace-king.
All right, here we go, Stanley.
This hand starts with a double straddle, with Jennifer Tilly straddling to $1,600. And Andrew Roble opens king-queen offsuit in the cutoff to $5,000. JRB is on the button with ace-king offsuit. Now, he and Andrew are over 500K deep. JRB decides to just call. This is certainly non-standard, and I normally would not advise it. I think what JRB is thinking is that he's in a game where he feels like he can outmaneuver a lot of the people at the table, but Andrew Roble's not one of them. Andrew's the toughest player in the game. In addition to wanting to have a little bit of deception, he doesn't want to just make sure that he plays a big pot against the player he views as the toughest at the table. He wants to let other people in, and if somebody 3-bets, now he has a deceptive hand with ace-king. So I get where his head's at. I would still probably 3-bet, but I don't mind it at all.
All right, here we go, Stanley.
Persson calls.
Of course, Tilly in as well.
All right, Roll did make it 7.
Give him an unlucky sweat there, Stanley.
For you.
After JRB just calls, small blind folds. Eric Persson calls with ace-9 suited in the big blind, and Jennifer Tilly in the fourth blind, biggest straddle, comes along with pocket threes.
5, 6, ace.
Fantastic situation for Robert, especially, again, a little bit underrepresented, not 3-betting pre. You don't really expect to see ace-king.
He bets 12,000, and Persson's right behind him with the call.
Dire straights for Persson as it stands.
All right, we got rid of them.
I just got to get rid of you.
On the flop of ace-6-5 to clubs, it's checked around to the button where JRB bets 12K into 20-ish K. Eric Persson next to act with top pair calls, the other two players fold. Nothing at this point is really worth talking about. It's all pretty standard. Eric Persson's not in an amazing spot facing that large-ish flop bet with two players to act behind him, but he's got top pair, he's got backdoor straight draws, he's got an overcard to 2-pair combos, so I think he should come along.
I check.
All right. That didn't take long.
I check.
Pot's getting big.
Turn is at 10 of diamonds, bring 2 flush draws now. Eric Persson checks, of course, to JRB, who bets 30,000, and Eric almost beats him into the pot, calls instantly. Again, from my perspective as a viewer, not much to talk about here, although Eric had some interesting things to say about his plan already at this point. So Eric said that he felt there was a decent chance that his hand was good, and if he calls and the river goes check, check, cool, he's going to win the pot. But he is already planning a river check raise bluff in his mind because he thinks JRB is weighted towards 1-pair hands, like ace, queen, ace, jack. He really felt like JRB, given all the history they've had together with his bet sizes, would have 1 pair here more often than 2-pair set. Eric really felt like if he puts in a big check raise on the river, if he does face that river bet, then he's going to get JRB to fold his 1 pair.
Dark check from Eric. Bellande bet 65,000.
Very nice value bet from Robert here. Just 1 pair, but still deems that king kicker worth a value bet on this kind of scary board. And for Persson, only beats a bluff now.
Yeah. That third diamond might save Eric some money, but did you like the bet from JRB?
I like the bet from JRB. What's this?
Bluff.
Oh, hang on a second, AJ. This guy.
He makes things fun.
200 more.
Persson raises to 265K.
It's kind of crazy because at first when he cut the 65,000 out, he was shaking his head like he didn't even want to call.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a weird for Robert. It's
a mind.
Almost all in.
You know what?
River is the 8 of diamonds, bring the backdoor flush, bring some straight draws, and Eric Persson checks again. JRB bets 2/3 pot again, and this is where things get really interesting. I know I already mentioned that Eric is planning a check raise, but the way that Eric goes about check raising is really fascinating to me. What Eric Persson does is he cuts out calling chips, and he makes kind of an expression or gesture that you would usually make if you're thinking about calling or folding. But he goes from that to raising, to 265,000. Now, this is one of the main things that I asked Eric about. I said, was that something that you were figuring out in the moment and those were genuine reactions, or were you acting in a way that you felt would look extra strong to JRB in that moment? And I was curious in general about his speech play and his physical play, because he is somebody who is not just, sitting there.
All right, 10,000, you can pick the call.
Stoically.
This is crazy.
Not that one.
Not saying anything and not moving his body other than to grab the chips and move them.
How are 2 sevens gonna win this hand?
You're gonna fold.
You know I have 2
You're
queens.
gonna fucking fold, and then I'm gonna show the sevens. And in 3 hours, everyone's gonna be like, whoa.
He's very active physically, he's active verbally.
And
What happened there?
what's that
What are
about?
you doing, man?
I was calling. I thought you were betting. You can do whatever you want.
I actually have never seen that play.
It's okay.
I have no idea what to do now.
You can do whatever you think is right, and it's okay.
I remember seeing an interview with Gus Hansen where he said, he just does so many random things at the table on purpose so that when he does something that could be a tell, nobody really knows because he's just doing so many things. There's too much noise. And I was curious if Eric was making a lot of noise and just kind of randomizing with all of that, or if he had specific intentions. And what he told me is that he had specific intentions. He's played a lot with JRB, and so he felt he needed to balance both his plays and his physicality and the way he spoke at the table. And so he had already made up his mind on the turn, and he said by the time he cut out his calling chips on the river, he was almost positive that he was beat. Actually, I think he said he was positive he was beat. But he already had the plan. He knew he was going to check raise, and he had played a pot with JRB previously, not on stream, where he acted this way in a big pot with a strong hand, and he felt like JRB would read this as strong. JRB with top pair, which is what Eric thought he had, is in a really tough spot here where he's obviously only beating a bluff. And most of the time, when somebody acts disappointed or disgusted and then raises, they've got something. That's one of the more reliable tells in poker. Yet, Eric is somebody who's experienced. It's harder to make that read on him than you would, say, an amateur at your local 1-2 game.
Even if you're bluffing, it doesn't matter. If you're bluffing or you have it, both of them are excellent plays either way. I like the check raise if you have it. I like the check raise if you're bluffing. Awesome play, Eric. Very nice. I think I'm going to probably fold here, but I'm not 100% yet. A little uncomfortable with how you're shaking over there. I can tell you that Roble would not fold my hand. Oh, wow, but I'm not rich enough to call you, I don't. Damn, you high rolled me. You played that rich man card. You looked like you weren't sure you wanted to call. And I was like, please call, please call, please call. And then you're like, well, I don't think my ace-queen is good enough here, so maybe I need to raise. Let me raise just to make sure, because it's highly unlikely JRB has diamond flush, and he can't call me. So maybe I have to call you. Maybe. Wow.
The really interesting thing, other than his kind of tells or false tells, is the hand that he chose, because this is not a GTO play. This is not a standard play. Generally, when you're picking a river check raise, so you want to block straights, you want to block flushes. You don't want to block top pair here because you want JRB to have top pair. You want JRB to have ace queen, ace king, ace jack, because that's where you're targeting. So having an ace of hearts is bad. Having he has a 9, but he doesn't have a diamond. So it's not a great check raise hand in theory. And if I were in his spot, I would probably say JRB is a strong enough player as to where I'm not going to deviate this far and raise with this hand because it's just too crazy. But what Eric and I spoke about on the phone, and I agree with it, that in live poker, there are so many spots where you can either get a strong read or you're playing against somebody who is deviating from optimal play so much that like waiting for the perfect combo is just wasting money. Having ace 9 of hearts here, instead of having, a better blocker hand, is just gonna move things, a hair. It's gonna change JRB's folding frequency by 1% or 2. And if JRB's folding frequency is going to be extremely high here, it doesn't really matter if it's a percent lower and would have been a percent higher if Eric had a diamond, for example. I've played with JRB a little bit, but not to the level that Eric has, so I have no comment on, what JRB is going to perceive as strong here. I have no comment on, especially what he's going to perceive as strong from Eric, but Eric Persson seemed to have a very strong view on what would look strong.
I haven't folded yet, but I have a nice ace, a very, very, very nice ace. And I'm thinking about letting it go. Look at all that. Oh my goodness, look, spread all those chips. Wow, look at that. Oh my goodness, this would be the pot of the day.
This is pornographic.
Gosh. I have a video of me calling you and you saying good call, picking up your bag and storming out of here. And I like that video.
Wow.
Video.
I like that video. Another video of me saying, all right, nicely played. And me going home, loser again. I hate that video. Most likely what we're going to get is he's not even going to wait for us to see on TV. He's just going to show the ace jack. Oh my goodness. That's going to be painful. All right. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to fold this, but quickly throw that hand in the mud.
I'll show it,
I don't
Eric.
want to see it.
Whoa.
I don't want to see it.
There are two key takeaways for me from this hand. The first is, if you can put a strong read on your opponent, whether it's their bet sizing or their physicality or just your history with them, and it's a spot where you think they're going to way over fold, way over call, going to be way over bluffing, way under bluffing, don't worry about your combo. Don't worry about waiting for the perfect spot that would be solver approved. Just make the play, take the money, because it's plus EV. You don't need to wait for the perfect hand. Obviously now, if you're wrong, you're at risk. But if you have a read that you're confident in, you should bet on yourself more often than not. The second takeaway is it was really interesting to get Eric Persson's insight as somebody more verbal and more physical at the table than I am. I guess I don't sit as stoically as some, and I am a little more loose with my physicality, but I'm not talking much during hands. I'm not planning how to look strong. And it's interesting to see somebody navigate that. I would tend to suggest that most of you don't attempt that, because oftentimes what happens is it comes through to pros as obvious that you are acting, and then they're going to actually have a great read on you. So I hope you found that hand interesting, and I hope you found those takeaways helpful to your game. I like to do my best in these hand reviews to make sure that you're learning something along the way. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care and good luck.
I'll show it, Eric.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
the double
boy.
bird.
Oh, you called his hand too, basically.
Yeah, you
Oh,
did.
my God.
I got a bluff.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, it's quiet, JRB. It's quiet, JRB.
You played the rich man's hand on me.
We're gonna
man.
have 10 minutes of silence now.
You played the rich man's hand on me.